Very good afternoon. Welcome to the final Lancashire Innovation Festival session of today. Lancashire Innovation Festival is an opportunity to showcase all the fantastic support that is available throughout the county to support businesses who are looking to innovate. We've got 2 days left after today, and we've got 4 more sessions, so I hope you can join us. You'll see a full list of what's available at lancashireinnovationfestival.co.uk. You can follow the conversation on Twitter and on LinkedIn with the hashtag LANIF2020. For those of you joining today, if you want to engage in conversation, then please use the boxed marked chat to tell us where you're from and your interest in innovation. And if you'd like to fire any questions to the panel, then please do use the box marked Q&A. So without any further ado, I'm going to pass you over now to Miranda, who will be chairing this afternoon's conversation. Over to you, Miranda.
Good afternoon and welcome to everybody. It's nice to see you here. And I'm the Chief Executive of East Lancashire Chamber of Commerce. And as part of what we do, we run the Chamber Low Carbon Programme, supporting companies inputting low carbon technologies into their SMEs across Lancashire, but also the RedCAT programme, now working in partnership with the Chamber Low Carbon Programme to help the development of new low carbon technologies and their capital investment. So we've got 4 companies who are going to be showing you their technologies. I'll do them a brief introduction now, but then you'll meet them all individually in a moment. We've got Jed Heffernan from the River Power Pod. We've got Jen Hill from BM Longworth. We've got Gary Bizard from Energy Ace and Derek Allen from IoT Horizon. So I'm just going to take you through a little bit about RedCAT first, and then you'll hear from those 4 technologies. They're each going to speak for about 10 minutes, and then we've got a few minutes for questions at the end. If we run ahead of time, we'll take individual questions after each section, but you'll probably be storing your questions up for the end. So we'll take you on to the presentation. This presentation, I'm sure Dan would be able to send it out to everybody if that's what you would like to do, Dan. So RedCAT is there to solve the constraints that have been placed on businesses when they're trying to develop new low carbon technologies or any kind of technology. It's really difficult to get support free of charge when you're trying to develop a technology, to look at its viability assessment, its marketing, its research. And that's the kind of thing we do through the Chamber Low Carbon Programme. Then obviously you need to be able to demonstrate your technology, and that's hard to do too, but we've got a new, hopefully funded demonstration centre coming soon with the Advanced Manufacturing Research Centre on the Samlesbury industrial area that will also be funded soon. But the last piece of that pie is really finding the capital investment you need to develop your new technology. And you're often having to do that sequentially. A bit here at the beginning when you're trying to do research and development, a bit to develop a prototype, a bit to take it further forward and take it into that demonstration space with a full-size model, and then finally a piece to help you scale up and tool up to do manufacture. And that slows down the whole development process. So this is why we've created RedCAT, which is an idea that Jed and I had a few months ago, and is hopefully now about to receive £1.5 million of money through the government's Getting Building funds to help us all build back better and have a green technology-led future. But our essence is we're there to help create commercialization funding and support for low carbon technologies, to work with the partners in the area, to look at potential buyers, helping you find ways to assess the viability of those technologies, and then find VC and equity investors to make sure we can accelerate the rollout of those technologies, not just in the UK, but into the global market, into those areas overseas which really need renewable technologies, because that's the only option they've got for electricity on site, not just us where we're trying to get a greener option. So we're working in partnership with a lot of organisations. We're also trying to work to support our advanced manufacturing sectors like aerospace and automotive, who are dealing with much diminished markets at the moment, to help them diversify into low carbon technologies as well as other areas of work, to help sustain them through this period of time. And like I say, in the end, to get those technologies all the way through into the global market. So we're looking at low carbon innovation, creating new products, getting the adoption of those products in our businesses, and really then driving the manufacture of those products in Lancashire if we can, getting the associated skill development to really provide a new market for our young people to go into, and those existing businesses to help them build their resilience and broaden their base. But then in the end, take those low carbon technologies through into the real global market for the whole of the net zero movement across the UK. But the most important thing to do today is to introduce you to some of our amazing technologies. So first of all, let me introduce Jed Heffernan from River Power Pod.
Thank you, Miranda. If you'd like to go to the next slide, thanks. So River Power Pod is about providing clean power, power for all, accessible power, and empowering people through being able to access power. Next one, please. So River Power Pods, we've established a foundation, a charity now, which looks to achieve the maximum social impact from our River Power Pod technology. So we look to develop technologies that and enterprises that deliver results across the globe, in Global South predominantly, and works on principles of being ethical, equal opportunity, and provide empowerment to local communities that don't currently have it. So these are examples here in Nepal on the left there, and in Kenya on the right. Next slide, please. Thanks. So the technology is an in-stream hydro turbine, pumping and generating electricity from the flow, the kinetic energy in rivers and channel currents. So it's patented, it's very high efficiency, it's low cost, uses proven drivetrain components and so on, doesn't need a special supply chain setting up, and primarily it really doesn't need any diversion of the river, any extraction from the river, and has a very low environmental impact. We've developed a number of demonstrators, used those with universities, both from here in the Northwest and in Cambridge as well. We've used turbines out in the field in a varying number of places, I'll explain in a moment. And then we've demonstrated in UK, Nepal, Kenya, China, a whole host of places. We have 500mm custom units in manufacture, and we're currently working on a development of the 3D printed ones, which are 3D printed from recycled plastic bottles, is the project we're doing at the moment. Next slide, please. So this is just some example of some of that progression. So early stage at the top there on the left, that's in the wave tank at Lancaster University. Next one across is in a water treatment works at Bolton, the clean side of it. And that's some work we did with Lancaster University. Middle row left is in a water treatment works in Darwin. We have something about water treatment works, and that was the unit prepared ready to take out for use in Nepal. That unit just fits into my suitcase. So the next unit going across then is the factory units using vertical outputs. Unit over on the right then is the unit we used in Stafford, in the River Penk. The unit on the bottom left is a 3D printed unit. Now that one's from ABS, but we're working at the moment with a project with the Liverpool John Moores University to do that from recycled plastic bottles. Kenya in the middle at the bottom, and Stafford there on the bottom right. Next, please. So really, this is what we do, and the idea is to get STEM involvement in schools and colleges across the Global South and here in the UK as well. So we work with, I used to be a physics teacher many years ago, guess I still am. So we teach physics lessons to people who've never had practical lessons. We've had a major impact in one of the schools we worked in Kenya, where in 2016, no girls were doing physics at all. When we went back in 2018, after we'd done our work in 2016, 50% of the girls are doing physics now and winning national competitions. It's fantastic to see how they've picked up on the work that we did and grown way beyond that. They're then able to gain the skills that will enable them then to develop jobs associated with our turbine, and with transferable skills that work in auto industry, etc. And then generate income as apprentices and in the factory then to generate income to run the school and be able to educate more people in the process. One of the examples over there on the left in the middle is actually up in Carlisle on the River Eden. So we've worked with schools over here in the UK as well. Next slide, please, Miranda. This is just an example of what we're doing. This is what you see all across Kenya at times is very barren children, usually girls, walking 20 or 30 kilometers a day to go and fetch water. It's just incredible where you see people, there's nothing around and people are just walking, trying to fetch water and therefore are not going to school. Next slide, please. But actually, Kenya's very lucky because it has glacial melt rivers that flow all year round, very fast rivers as well. And when you can capture the energy from that and use the water from that to irrigate the fields, next slide, please, then the yield is amazing. It's really fertile. And this is just an example of what they were able to produce from some rainwater retention exercises. Not only were they able to feed themselves, but actually sell produce and significantly change the education for their children in the community as well. Next slide, please, Miranda. So we have projects, we set up our projects then with schools and colleges. And the idea is to have a virtuous circle of skill building, locally available renewable energy using the turbines that we teach them how to make, using local resources, with local buyers for those that then generate income for the schools and colleges, which is cycled back then into either giving free turbines out to communities or actually generating income for the school. Next slide, please, Miranda. So this is where we get to with the RedCAT side of things with what we're doing. There is a major gap when turning innovations into application and action, as I'm sure everybody knows. And there's a pressing need to provide a sandpit and a way of getting over that initial hump for innovators and pupils to test and develop their ideas. We want to enable development and tests here in the UK and then export that to communities in need. We can actually, as part of that, once we can give people that opportunity to demonstrate here, we can also give them access to the global south, to our projects, to actually start getting out to a market that they otherwise wouldn't be able to access. Participation stimulates interest and engagement in STEM. And just as an example, a fridge, amazing difference, enables a community to be able to release the women. Instead of making food all day long, they can do what we do, make the food at the weekend, stick it in the fridge, and then they can go and actually engage in economic activity or education during the rest of the week instead of just cooking continuously. So next slide, please, Miranda. And thank you very much. That's just hopefully give you an idea of what we're doing with RedCAT to enable us to get out to the global south communities, but also as an example to help other people achieve that, getting over that innovation hump and access to market. Thank you.
Famous, I'm still on mute. That's excellent. Thank you so much, Jed. We're actually on time, which is wonderful. I haven't got any questions at the moment. I'm just looking in the Q&A now. No questions as yet because everyone's done exactly what I said and waited, which is super. So we'll move straight on to the next presentation, which is Jen from BM Longwell. Hang on. That's because I have closed it and then opened it again. So we'll just, I should have left it up. There we go. There you are, Jen.
Thank you very much, Miranda. Hi, I'm Jen, Director of B&M Longworth. We are a family-owned, relatively small SME based in Blackburn, Lancashire. We've been established since 1976, and on paper, some of you might say, well, you're perfectly good at getting your innovation out to market. We work with 18 different countries around the world, many of them long-standing customers. In front of you is DCOM, our patented technology, which removes, reduces, and hopefully recycles plastic waste. Largely for years and years, that's been used for manufacturing waste at the point of manufacture. And without help from academics and people like the Chamber Low Carbon Hub, consultants through RedCAT, Innovate UK and the like, we would never have realised that that piece of technology is also potentially a world-leading game changer in the fight against plastic waste that we all find ourselves in. Whilst we can't speak too detailed about any of the projects that run at the moment, because one of our major challenges is NDAs and confidentiality and everything that's tied up within IP, I thought I'd just spend 5 minutes telling you about the different challenges and the help that these different hubs can give a relatively small jobbing engineering company who really weren't set up for suddenly entering new markets and ploughing hundreds of thousands of pounds into R&D, which effectively is what needs to happen to take that technology to its potential. Next slide, please. Just some of the challenges that we have come across as the innovator or the inventor, if you like, is the obvious one. I would say investment. Clearly, we have ploughed hundreds and hundreds of thousands of our own profits over the years into trying to understand just how this technology could help further different markets around the world, as well as different sectors. But also a huge challenge has been for us that it's been built for one particular application. For that application, it's very cost effective, it's clean, and it's a really good way to clean plastic waste from manufacturing components. What it's not is cost effective as a waste management tool. So one of the huge challenges that we faced is, what does that technology need to look like in order to be cost effective in its new application, if you like. Can we just go back a slide, please? Thank you. Visibility is a huge one. Sorry, it's taking itself on, Miranda. It needs to go back to challenges. Visibility is a huge one, obviously. Anybody who knows that they've tried to reach new markets, the raising of profiles, the fact that you may well be highly credible in one market, but at the moment in waste management across the world, we've no established status, we've no credibility. And also we don't know how to reach those markets potentially. So ultimately for that commercialization, we really did need to tap into, we've got high technical skill sets. We know our technology inside out, we know what it's capable of. Equally, we know what it's not capable of. What we don't know is how to take that from true end to end and get it out there into the marketplace in high volumes. We don't know how to scale it. We needed that support, funded support, most importantly, from people across a whole different range of skill sets. We've got academics, we've got people like RedCAT consultants, we've worked closely with Jed at Fern Innovation, and different counterparts with different skill sets from technological right through to market research. Without that, quite frankly, we'd be potentially a Lancashire-based innovator sat on a piece of world-leading technology that we weren't aware of, weren't capable of taking to market, weren't capable of it ever reaching its potential in a lot of ways. And I think that's really important for us to sort of grasp and get our heads around it at a time of Lancashire Innovation Festival, is how many other Lancashire innovators are there out there who just need that little bit of support and consultancy really to reach further potential and potentially become world beating. Okay, next slide, please. So I won't read all of these out for you. You're all capable of reading perfectly well, and you don't need to listen to these dulcet tones for longer than is necessary. But the development activities that we're undertaking with the help of that support that we've been receiving are things like designing and producing prototypes correct for the application, which in turn becomes more cost efficient, more easily injected into new markets, if you like. Most of the time what we're told is, well, if you've got a new technology, it doesn't matter how great it is. If it costs more than the old technology that everybody's using, you've got a real fight on your hands. So we're sort of challenging that at the moment, and also trying to make people understand that this is an alternative technology. It might not be cost It might not be cheaper in cost in terms of monetary, but actually your carbon footprint will be a lot smaller by using this as opposed to different alternative technologies, such as burning and pyrolysis, for example. Primarily, what we were doing was running trials and funding those ourselves to try and get proof of concept, speaking to different industry partners from different sectors, some very, very household known names. But nevertheless, nobody puts the money on the table until it's proven. Now with the trials that we're running to learn more about the process and to feed that back with different industry partners, that's in fields like, for instance, carbon fibre, aerospace, automotive, nautical and defence, fashion, a whole host of waste management sectors. You can imagine the different types of plastic that there are in our waste streams. We're now managing to commercialise those trials so that people are actually putting money on the table for them, which is a massive step forward for us because, as I say, for years and years, it was just a case of we'll use the profits from our day-to-day business to fund R&D, which is not a forward-thinking way to do it. It's not sustainable long-term, and certainly not on the type of scale that we're talking about trying to achieve. We've got some very productive partnerships and engagements through universities in the UK, high-value manufacturing centres, catapult centres throughout the UK. We've got a live KTP, which is a knowledge transfer partnership with the University of Manchester, looking into a circular economy and reclaiming the plastic that we can reduce and depolymerise and try and find different uses for that. So that's really exciting work. There's an awful lot going on, which I wish I could tell you more about, but I can't. And again, through partnerships and government funding largely, these people suddenly are coming out of the woodwork saying what you're sitting on is incredibly exciting. But frustratingly, for years, nobody tapped into it. We didn't know how exciting it was. It was just sort of paying the bills and working in the markets where we were very comfortable. So now we've got to a point where we've got, as it says there near the bottom, we've got the engagement of people like retailers, waste management companies suddenly showing an interest, willing to put some money on the table. We still need a lot more. Because each field of use that we apply our technology to tends to have a slightly different need, different costs to factor in, different types of waste, different contaminants, bits of metal thrown in there in some circumstances. So we've got a long way to go, but we're now managing different partnerships, and we've got sort of more of a process of how to manage those, how to then put government bids together for some funding to do other exciting things and meet other sort of household names, supplier investors, if you like. And we're seeing the recruitment, which is a really big thing for us to suddenly take on really quite recently, to ChemEng skilled people who largely we didn't need. I suppose you could argue that we did need them all along, but we certainly didn't invest in that sort of skill set for our day-to-day work, whereas the fact that we're now aware of what we're sitting on, what we're capable of, and we've got some of the routes to take it where it needs to go has meant that we've actually recruited 2 very specialist chemical engineers, and obviously we've got our KTP who's a doctor in chemical engineering as well. So that's very exciting for us. Next slide, please. Very briefly, the impact that we're having, basically, I could just pick one of those bullet points out, which it pretty much sums it all up, is that we're seeing game-changing reductions in landfill and waste transportation carbon. So our technology can reduce plastic waste to ideally 2% by volume. So if you imagine 2% of every landfill site is suddenly looking like a much smaller landfill mountain. We've got people around the world already bought into the decom technology for its other use. As I said, in 18 different countries who are all interested to see where this goes. So in theory, a piece of technology born in Lancashire pretty much could be a game changer for the way that waste plastic is treated and potentially reused worldwide, which is pretty exciting. I think everybody will agree. So I won't go into it in too much great detail, but if anybody wants any questions answering, then you know what to do. And I think that's it for me.
Thank you very much, Jen. That's excellent. And this is taking itself on all on its own. I have no idea how. So you've already heard about renewable power generation, and now about tackling waste on a global scale. So moving on to Gary Bizard from Energy Ace. Thank you, Gary.
Thanks, Miranda. Afternoon, everybody. Energy Ace are a manufacturer and solution provider of energy efficiency and energy saving solutions. Next slide, please, Miranda. We were incorporated in 2002, and we've got around about 2,000 customers worldwide, and we actually export to around about 15 different countries. We started our innovation, I think, around about sort of 2014, where we realized that to grow the business, we needed innovation within it, with new products and new services. And with the assistance of Innovate, and also with the local chamber as well around low carbon, we managed to design a number of products that would help energy reduction and improve energy efficiency for our customers. That culminated in a patent being awarded around about 2015 that we're really, really proud of. Our customers are from all different types, from the restaurants of Frankie and Benny's, Chiquitos, Coast to Coast. We work with a lot of pubs like JW Lee's, Young's, St Austell, Brunner and Price pubs. We work with the supermarkets like Co-op, Sainsbury's, and also with department stores like Debenhams, smaller retail outlets like McCall's. And we've also got a lot of industrial clients as well that we bring our solutions to. Next slide, please, Miranda. So in any type of energy reduction program, it is all about putting a strategy together, and this is what we help our clients with. And that strategy is all about getting visibility, basically, of their energy spend. You know, where is the actual energy being consumed? How is it being consumed? Where's the actual cost in the energy as well? And then putting the right sort of strategy together. Now, that might be remote metering and monitoring to give us that visibility. It might be more about energy surveys. And again, part of the Chamber Low Carbon is about putting these sort of strategies together. And we also help with that as well. Next slide, please, Miranda. So once we've got this strategy, it's about targeting then. So we've measured what the energy consumption is for a customer. Once we've got that, it's about the right type of solutions. Now, some of those we may manufacture here in Chorley, but others it might be other types of solutions that we bring in, but the right solutions for the right job, basically. Once those have been implemented, it's about measuring again to make sure that the impact has been achieved. And once that's been achieved, we'll look to the next solution again. So it's a case of measure, target, and then bring solutions in. Next slide, please, Miranda. And also, it's about barriers. It's about breaking down the barriers. So there is a cost to these solutions, to be fair. And we know that the ROIs on some are really good. In other words, the return on investment, some can be a little bit longer. So it's great to sort of look at those barriers and find a solution for those as well. And again, with the Chamber Low Carbon, there's assistance available, not only to put the strategy together, but also to help implement the actual solutions. As you can see there, 60% of sustainability professionals say the biggest barrier to introducing these type of solutions is a lack of project finance. So trying to find the right finances to help these solutions to come to reality is key, basically. There's also a number of grants available as well, either local grants or national grants that we can help with. And So yeah, it's to help with that finance. Next slide, please, Miranda. I think that's yeah, start a conversation. That's what it's all about, really, engaging with the client. You know, once we've engaged with the client, it's about getting all those elements that I've spoken about together to see if we can help. And as you can see with the wide range of types of customers that we work with, you know, even from domestic, we've got a solution for a house, basically all the way up to the largest sort of industrial type factories or groups, let's say. So we can help all around, but it is about looking at the data, looking at the solutions that are available, and targeting it in the right way. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions at the end.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Gary. That's superb. I think we should roll on and carry on and hear from Derek, and then we can just do straight questions and answers at the end. So Derek Allen from IoT Horizon.
Hi, thank you, Miranda, and thank you very much for the invite today. So yes, you're absolutely right. I'm Derek Allen from IoT Horizon. I'm probably got a fairly unique spelling of the word Derek. It is English, I assure you. It's just I think my father must have lost the plot at some point. We are based in Lancashire. We're an IoT company, and we've been involved with the East Lancashire Chamber, the low carbon team for a number of a few years now. Certainly from my perspective, I can sit on both sides of the fence really. One as an SME trying to bring innovation to market, but also the services that we bring to help customers. So sometimes I help, or sometimes it's ourselves. And we've had a number of challenges of trying to bring those technologies to market. You know, going out through some of the innovation grants can be very difficult, getting very competitive, take up a lot of time for SMEs. So I think the RedCAT fund is going to be ideal really, because I think sometimes SMEs, as Jen said, don't progress their innovation because they physically don't have access to the funds to be able to do that. So anything that can accelerate that's got to be a great thing. Certainly from our side, we've got a lab now inside Daresbury where we're testing some of our sensors. We've got three areas to the business. One, we've got our professional services. So we help you go from a concept to a rapid prototype. And that can include all sorts of things, access to finance, looking at the business case, making sure that it is viable, as well as having to deploy some of the technologies. The second part of it, we're quite geeky. We've got access to some really interesting technology. And for those of you who've seen me in the past, I sometimes get out my devil ring, if you can see that, and people say, "What's that?" And I go, "Well, that's my contactless bank card." So now, you know, what you can't see. I mean, Gary said it quite well. You know, you can't measure what you can't see. Again, it's the same thing with some of your products and your inventions. You can't measure it unless you can see it. And I think that's where IoT has so much to give in terms of things like embedded sensors. So when we talk to manufacturers and organizations, we talk about two concepts really. One, what we call your digital walk. You know, you learn to walk first. That's the foundations of your manufacturing. That could be simple things like, how do I improve the reliability of my machine? And you think, oh, how do I do that? And well, actually, it's getting a lot easier. So, I mean, here's an example of a sensor. This one here measures vibration and temperature, and you literally put it onto your motor. Now, and it communicates to something like this, which you plug into the wall. And this is your gateway. So look at how simple some of this technology is becoming. And when in quite a short space of time, you're measuring its vibration, and all of a sudden you're starting to improve your productivity. You can improve your productivity, you can account for it, you can improve it, and obviously it's got some low carbon benefits. The other side of what we could do then is once you've got your foundation, your ERP, your MES systems, things like that in place, you like to think, well, how do I accelerate my growth? How do I look at new lines of revenue? How do I embed sense? How do I make things quite exciting? I mean, I don't want to scare you, but you know, in our research, 25% of all alcohol is cloned, 25% of pharmaceuticals is cloned, and some aerospace parts as well. So it's becoming a real problem that a lot of organizations are going to have to work out, you know, am I actually talking to the right asset? And, you know, you think, well, where can that go? Well, I mean, this is an RFID button. So this is something that I could sew onto your shirt or blouse, and it could be read by a reader. So if you're worried about being tracked, you know, I can make that happen for you, or I can certainly tell you. I mean, there was an interesting article in Facebook recently. I think Victoria's Secret said that some of the people were concerned that they had an RFID tag in certain some of their bras, and actually it's just used for warehousing. You can't really do too much about it, but you know, the sensors get really quite exciting. And if you took it something like this, I mean, I don't know if you can see how small that is, but that's an RFID tag. So I can put that into one of your products. But what's kind of really interesting is it's not just going to give you its identity, it's going to tell you its temperature. There's no battery in this. It's completely powerless, but it's got a temperature sensor. So you could scan that, you could read that. So we patented a technology which we put into certain construction material. Big government tender coming up, you know, 2 billion, we're all going to have insulation. But how are they going to audit that? You know, you've seen the challenges with Grenfell. You know, how do I know I'm getting the right material into the right place? Well, as you can see, we can start to do a number of things. We could start putting sensors in, you know, we could sew them on. You know, we could sew them onto your products. If you're interested in the future of your bank card, maybe it's something like that. So as you can see, this is a plastic card, but actually this one's quite interesting. It's got a biometric reader in the card itself. So as before you put your smart card into the EMV terminal, you authenticate with your biometric. See, kind of interesting, isn't it? So we're starting to look at how we do that. Jed mentioned Africa. I got a shout out about my friends in Namibia. So this is a Namibia social payment card on biometric. So in the villages, they go out with Dillaroo cash machines on the back of 4x4 pickups, and all the villages under the trees have a smart card with their biometric. And we use that to make sure that we're getting payment to the right people. So they validate by putting their biometric onto a reader. But we do care about carbon, lots of plastic in smart cards, but this is a wooden card. So if you want to start looking at different materials, we can start advising on materials as well. So we can start to look at wood. It might also be that, you know, you need to harden up a tag. So if you're in oil and gas, for instance, you might have an RFID like that. I mean, the thing will explode and this thing will still be there. So we can start to really ruggedize sensors. If you're in pharmaceuticals and you're tracking, you know, you've got a little RFID tag there, you could see under that. So again, you could start to think about how can I use that for compliance? Were you really there? And the great thing is we all love our smartphones, right? So, you know, these are becoming, you know, your gateway to smart buildings and the like. So you can physically now tap your tag. You know, if you've never tried it, try getting an Android phone. You can get a credit card reader and you can read your credit card number. It's doable. So, you know, in terms of, you know, access to technologies, the great thing is we've got an EMRC moving next to Salisbury. That's going to be fantastic for manufacturing and showing some of the world-class technologies here in Lancashire. You know, I've been really fortunate to work with the likes of Made Smarter as well. We were very lucky to get a Made Smarter award. And now we've got the low carbon teams, plus all the consulting that goes with it. So, you know, teams of, you know, some of us on the panel today can help, but there are more. And it was interesting, Andrew's talk this morning from Boost Lancashire talking about the support that they can give as well. But hopefully I've given you a little bit of a run in terms of some of the technology. I could go on all day. I don't know how much longer I've got, Miranda. I didn't set the clock, so 5 more minutes. Fantastic. Well, let me show you some more technology. And so this one here is an interest. This is an RFID tag, but it's got a mechanical switch in it. There's no power in it. So let's say, for instance, you're transporting goods from A to B and you're worried about someone dropping something. Well, this measures 5Gs. So if you were to drop this, it's got a mechanical switch and it changes color. So it doesn't matter if you're in Africa, in the Arctic, it's got 2 switches and it mechanically shows a different color. You've been dropped. But what's clever about it is it does something called energy harvesting, and it uses that drop to change the RFID tag on it. So it changes some of the bytes in the RFID chip, like your bank card, if you want to keep it nice and simple, so that if you were to scan that RFID tag, you could do that. So that's kind of interesting. This one's Jen, when you're moving your products from A to B and you want to make sure no one's tampered with it, take a fire extinguisher. You know, we're all led to believe that a fire extinguisher's got water in it because it's got a plastic cable tie around it. It's normally, they're green, aren't they? And you think, hopefully no one's replaced that. This is an interesting one. This is an RFID tag. So this could be read by a scanner or something like that. Now this piece here is your cable. This is your antenna. Okay. So once it goes into here, it makes a physical connection. And if you cut that, you kill the chip. If you try to pull it out, it just won't work. So you've got a way now of being able to prove that things haven't been tampered with. And it doesn't always cost. You know, there are low cost solutions. People think about, you know, the traditional barcode. You know, the barcode technologies have moved on as well. They haven't stood still. So you can have a barcode where you think you're reading something, but actually it's got some secret sauce in the barcode. And actually, if you've got the right reader, you could be told that that's actually a product that's come from River PowerPod, and only River PowerPod can verify that. We can also take Miranda's biometric now. So I could take a picture of Miranda and I can encode her biometric into a 2D barcode. All right, so that's all offline. So imagine you go to Glastonbury and you've got your ticket, and especially with COVID right now, they want to make sure, maybe Glastonbury is not a good example. Let's take the football when we do get back into football, and they want to make sure that you haven't given your season ticket to somebody else. If you've got that barcode on your season ticket, you're going to be able to, someone could scan that barcode, turn a camera on, and verify you're one and the same person. And Jed, that could be really, I think that's really interesting technology, certainly for Africa. I've been involved in many smart card projects in Africa, and they all want the most exciting smart card going, a bit like a bank card, and they want contact and contactless. And in the end, they go for something really cheap because they can't afford it. You know, again, something simple like using a barcode, which is this, the cost of printing is a lot cheaper. So, in terms of when you work with East Lancashire Chamber, they've got access to consultants to help you with your business, access to different technology, access to funding, and hopefully they've got access to people like me that could come and talk to you a little bit about how we might be able to help you look at the inside of your business, but also maybe look at how do we look at different lines of revenue. And I'm going to shut up now.
Thank you very much, Jerry. Thank you very much, everybody. I'll just show you one final little piece of our presentation to sort of link everything together, and then we've got some questions coming through, which I'll go to. So let me just show you the last piece of this slide. So for instance, I'll just make it go to full screen. In terms of the process, it does keep doing that. It will jump straight to the beginning again, so I then have to zip all the way through to the end. But there are two slides at the end I just want to show you in terms of how everything hangs together. So with the development, doesn't like me doing that. With the development of any product, we will generally find out about it at the beginning from a variety of sources, whether that's being referred in by the universities, by Boost, by the AMRC, or some of the chamber contacts, the Chamber Low Carbon. We will try and make sure that we're working with all of the partners in the area to look at the viability of that technology and make sure it's going to be a viable product in a market, work with the AMRC to look at the market, what it could be made of, manufacturing the prototype, looking for the initial funding, and that's where the money that we've got from government most recently is most useful. Because you might well know it's very easy to get X millions of pounds when you've got a potential customer out there. But when you're still at the age of pre-customer, it's very hard to get that funding to develop to the point where you can demonstrate it somewhere and have customers come and look at it. But also the idea is that we're working with those customers and the potential funders very early on to get the whole pathway of funding for the initial stage for use by the initial adopter customer and into the market, and to scale up at the early stage, so then we can progress as quickly as possible into that global market, and to be part of both the green recovery and resilience outputs for the county. And lastly, just to show you how it all works together. I'm very, very slow in terms of giving me the control. 1 second, it's gone off the end. It's got a sort of 20-second lag before it will show you anything, so it's very unhelpful. But there's one slide I just want to show you at the end, just to show you how the whole system, the ecosystem, fits together, and I'm not going to expand it further. So, sorry. but we all work together so that the whole development process also interacts with the AMRC, with some support we have for putting companies into incubators and building skills in local universities, colleges, and with organisations like Training 2000. And then working, as I said, in partnership with organisations who are trying to support our existing manufacturers in other sectors to develop into low carbon sectors as a diversification to continue to support their businesses. We're also working in partnership with the Environment Agency to look at how our low carbon technologies and their development can generate funding for local low carbon climate resilience in the area to support Lancashire as the climate continues to change, potentially with some of the flooding and also provision of offsetting and insetting opportunities for everyone's business in the Lancashire area. So just to take the first question, which I saw come up on the Q&A, and that was asking about whether the capital grants require any business investment and or equity sharing. The idea is that we don't take any money from the companies developing the technologies. The funding that we have to run the organisation comes from taking some funding from the investors as it comes in. But we do need at this stage to be able to show that businesses are investing in that R&D themselves and putting the time in and putting some investment in, then we're able to pay a percentage. But as the fund develops and grows and we've got interest from various commercial funds to come in with us, then we should be able to work with you to look at opportunities for venture capital and equity funding. So it should be a whole variety of routes. But the main thing is to get to know you and to understand what funding you need at what stage of the business. And there are whole varieties of how to do that, from small grants that we can give all the way through to really serious equity and venture capital partners that we're bringing in. So the main thing is come and get in contact with us, because we're not trying to take any fees from you ourselves. We're trying to make sure that technology is developed, and in the end, RedCAT will be created as a not-for-profit organisation that is there to support the generation of new technologies in Lancashire to impact globally, we hope. Any future questions? I know.
Hi, Miranda. Just wanted to, I can't use the chat, but I had a couple of questions from some of the things that popped up in the conversation there. Do you mind if I just...
Please, yeah.
I can't do them for the Q&A, but there were quite one or two just specific ones actually, and then one which is more general. So if I go to my specific ones first, Jen, there was something that you mentioned in your presentation and it just caught my ear, and I think you said around, you know, if something along the lines of if more companies, more innovators kind of knew about the support that was out there, there'd be much more innovation taking place in the county. Do you feel like that there is an opportunity to get more innovation in Lancashire? Do you feel like there is more that can be done to support innovative companies in the region?
I think we've got the infrastructure to deliver that help now, end to end. I think there's a lot more can be done in getting the message out. We were lucky because the Chamber Low Carbon team picked us up, mainly because we were already Chamber members. There are, without doubt, innovators across Lancashire. We're already leading the world on aerospace. We're innovating, we're exporting colossal amounts of product out to, you know, different countries around the world just from Lancashire, from our one little red rose county. Why can we not be doing more? And all of those innovators, you know, I know the team at Longworth, they don't even see themselves as innovators. You know, I'll question, at what point did we start doing that remotely? At what point can we can commission a huge machine at the other side of the world using an iPad? And they just sort of shrug and say, well, it saves us getting on a plane. They don't see themselves as innovators. It needs somebody to come into the business, pick it apart and say, that's golden, because they're just getting on with the day job. So yes, I do think a lot more can be done in terms of making people realise, you know, Lancastrians by default will never put their head above the parapet. They'll just get on with it. And I think the fact that there's technologies out there that could be world leading, we're already leading the world on some things, so why not on everything?
Excellent. I think that was you kind of, I think, started as well, perhaps have done, answered the other question I've got into.
Even better.
Pardon?
Even better.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that, I mean, I know I was reading an article the other day, and it was more about a city, but it was Vaxjo in Sweden is one of Lancaster's twin cities, and it's globally known as being a world leader in environmental and eco business, and having that kind of ecosystem, I suppose, of eco innovation. And I just wondered, you mentioned about messaging there. What other things prevent us from being world leaders if we're not already so in eco innovation? Are there other things that we could do as a county wide to really beyond the
I think it's probably just finding the right way to communicate with these people. We're not talking about huge, conglomerates. We're talking about people like Longworth, and like Jed's Fern Innovation. We're talking about quite small employers who don't realise what they're sat on, whether that's skills or intellectual property or knowledge or the ability to do something. They don't even realise that nobody else can do that thing. So I think to get the message out primarily that possibly it's a more sustainable message, that might be the way to do it. Let Lancashire lead on being sustainable. So anything you do, let us come in and see if we could do it in a more cost efficient, low carbon way. And from that, you've got the right consultants within those businesses seeing the opportunities, because the business owners primarily can't see the opportunities. They're not even looking. So it's finding ways to get the right skill sets, the right innovation consultants, for want of a better phrase, into our manufacturers and employers and software companies, and let them do the tricky bit. Let them work out whether it's worth something. And the market is huge, isn't it, Jen? And it's growing massively. And we will see 22,000 registered businesses in East Lancashire alone. So exactly. There's not a lot of them to go at. And the global market is just going to keep building. We're going to see tighter and tighter legislation on carbon taxation. Through the energy white paper, we're going to see the push towards renewable energy generation off-site, and taxation of businesses for their energy use is going to come very soon. So the more that we can be ahead of the game in terms of driving the provision of that technology, that market's going to come to meet us. But also, we need all of our businesses to be encouraged to adopt that technology ahead of the curve to make sure they're profitable and aren't squeezed by those price changes in their energy supply.
I was just going to add, if I could add something to that, I was just going to say, obviously COVID has really enhanced digital remote working. Everyone's had to learn what Teams and Zoom is, and and remote monitoring, like Jen said, is accelerated by 5, in some cases 10 years. And I think everyone's going to be asking that question. I think a lot of SMEs also need assistance. They will have great ideas, but sometimes they need a bit of support. They don't necessarily have all the skills in place. So, I think that's a place of, shout out for about it. And they need to be able to know the art of the possible. And that's the great thing about having, technology hubs like the MRC, where you can go and see these new technologies and go find out and explore about them. Because until you see something, you don't realize what you can do. I mean, if you look at supply chains, people are now asking some really big questions about how can I prove the provenance of my supply chain? What can I add to my supply chain? And, in 5 years' time, the market is saying that an RFID technology is going to be down to a penny. Well, that was 30p 10 years ago. So the way that our businesses operate is going to change. But I think education and knowledge is really needed, and it's coming. It's great time.
Smashing. Thanks for that, Derek and Jen and Miranda. The other question I had was for Gary, actually. And there was a comment that you made, Gary, that I was really interested in. And I think it was talking about the sort of background to your business becoming more innovative. And you sort of mentioned a defined date in 2014 where there was a decision made that we need to innovate. And being that this is the Innovation Festival, I just found that really interesting, that there was a conscious decision. And I just wondered if you could just expand a little bit more about that time and what that meant, because I'm sure for lots of businesses, kind of going for, making the decision that you need to innovate, that sounded like a real light bulb moment.
Yeah, I mean, there is a bit of a story around there. I mean, when we decided that we needed innovation in the business to grow it, to be fair, we probably didn't have the support that we've got, nowadays, let's say, or maybe we didn't know where that support was, to be fair, and I think that's been echoed a little bit today, that sometimes you need that sort of, that vision and that knowledge that there's this sort of support about. And we didn't know that at the time. And we decided that, or we identified, should I say, that we had to bring this innovation in to grow in the way that we wanted. So we really just put everything into it, to be fair. And we had this this belief that, the sort of build it, there will come sort of belief, and that's the way we went about it. I'm not saying I'd do that again in exactly the same way, to be fair, because I remember coming to, I think it was the wages we had to pay for the Christmas wages for 2013 leading into 14, and we just didn't have enough money. And we were like, what can we do? We've got to pay people for Christmas at least, And I remember going out to a friend and asking, can I borrow a considerable amount of money, just to pay the wages. And but we had the belief that, the innovation that we'd made and everything would come good. And we had certain promises and beliefs. And then I think the amount of money that we borrowed, we promised that we'd pay it back in 3 months' time. So basically end of March. And the order that we were really seeking from this innovation came in the middle of February, which was absolutely fantastic and such a relief. And we paid the money back early. And since then, to be fair, we've flown. And never again, though, never again would we grow and think in that sort of way. But like I said, there is support about now. There's no doubt about that. And we've done a lot of innovation since, to be fair, a lot of R&D. We've never been in that position again. We've had the support and the help. But I think you just got to go for it, to be fair. If you've got an idea, go for it. That's what we did, nothing more than that. And it all came good in the end.
It's really interesting to hear you say that, Gary, and it stands out with another example that we've had in this whole event where someone has said, you know what, we just came out with something really creative. We thought, we're going to go for it and we're going to stand by our convictions here and we're going to go and it's going to work. And it's that sort of, I think sometimes going back to what Jen said, that having great examples and great case studies, that's what lifts everybody else around you, I think, to think, actually, we can go and innovate, we can do that. And hearing you say that story, that's really superb. I'm going to pass back to Miranda now.
Yeah. Just one extra little bit on that. Part of the innovation as well was around we decided to market the product more as a concept. So we got behind a brand called Energy Ace. At the time, we were actually called Power Efficient Systems. And part of the innovation was when we did the pilots, we marketed it under the brand instead. And when this really large order came, which was best part of £1 million, really, which for us at the time, being quite a small business, was great. It was part of a tender that we were tendering for about 111, I think it was, Energy Ace energy saving systems. And when we were told that it would be a tender initially, I was gutted because we'd done all this work with this company. And we really felt as though the order was coming. And when we got this tender for 111 of these Energy Ace energy saving systems, we got phone calls from 10, 15 different companies, all asking for 111 Energy Ace energy saving systems, which was absolutely phenomenal, because all of a sudden they had to come to us, which was great. So part of that innovation was about the vision of getting beyond that brand as well, to be fair.
No, superb. Thanks, Gary. Just finally, I wanted to show you that slide I was fighting to display. This is how RedCAT fits into the innovation system for low carbon technologies in Lancashire. So this green sweep here, this is the development of the low carbon tech you've been hearing about, how we support them all the way through from their early investment to equity into hopefully a global rollout, partnershiping with the Environment Agency, looking at diversification opportunities to help the resilience in all manufacturing sectors, and then trying to build the skills and the future businesses and help those businesses grow to really help Lancashire be a leader in low carbon innovation, but make sure also we're creating the jobs on the ground here, creating the jobs for our young people to come through into a growing sector globally, but really have a global impact from Lancashire, and all those innovation successes we've been brilliant at in the past that we haven't fully commercialised. This is now hopefully how we have a route to take those innovations through to full commercial use globally for the success of Lancashire and net zero globally as well. So thank you very much for your time, and back to Dan. And thank you to my wonderful panelists. You've been great.
Yeah, a big thank you to all you. This has been a real great session, and it's just really typified a lot of the conversations where we've actually brought businesses in and they've led this conversation from the front, and you've all done so magnificently there. So I really appreciate all of your time on this. We've got 2 days left after today for anybody involved. Tomorrow we've got a session on medtech and then agri-tech tomorrow afternoon. Fridays we are looking at building innovation ecosystems, and then a vision of the future. So a big thank you to everyone for joining us, and until tomorrow, we'll say goodbye for now.
Can come together. This brand new festival will champion some of Lancashire's latest innovations across 25 events, hosted by more than 50 speakers, including some of the county's innovation experts from higher education, health, clean technologies, and many more. You can see the full schedule and register online for free at lancashireinnovationfestival.co.uk. So join us for a month of inspiration, collaboration, and discovery around innovation.